I had no clue what race I was. So, what are you? The girl at Starbucks asked while writing my name on the cup. Human, I said, because this happened literally every day. No, but like, what are you? She pressed. Indian, Latino, Middle Eastern. You look kind of everything. I honestly don't know, I said. She laughed like I was joking, but I wasn't. I was 17 and genuinely had no idea what race I was because my parents refused to tell me. That night at dinner, I tried again. Mom, what ethnicity are we? We're American, she said, passing the salad. But before that, I asked. Before that, we were younger, my dad said, and they both laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. I'm serious, I said. People ask me all the time, and I have nothing to say. Tell them you're from Earth, my mom said. Third planet from the sun. So I called my grandmother. Grandma, what's our heritage? Oh, sweetie, we're from Ohio, she said. No, I mean like ancestry. My ancestors are from Ohio too, she said. What about before Ohio? Before Ohio, there was nothing, she said, and hung up. I went through every family photo album looking for clues, old traditions, clothing, holidays, food, anything that hinted at culture. But every picture looked aggressively normal. Backyard barbecues, hamburgers, Christmas with a plain tree. Nothing remotely ethnic. I even tried to trick my mom while she was doing taxes. Hey, Mom, what should I put for race on this college form? What are the choices? She asked without looking up. White, black, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, Pacific Islander. Put yes, she said. That's not an option. Then put no. I Googled our last name. It could have been French, Vietnamese, Nigerian, or completely made up. One website said it meant bread maker, another said son of the mountain. At school, I asked teachers for guesses. Do I look Hispanic? I asked my Spanish teacher. Maybe, she said, Chinese. I asked my Mandarin teacher, possibly. French. Everyone looks a little French if you squint, she said. I saved up for a DNA test kit. But when it arrived, my parents were waiting in the living room like it was an intervention. We can't let you do that, my dad said. Why not? Those companies sell your data, my mom said. I don't care about my data. You will when you're older, my dad said, taking the kit. So I had my friend Jeremy order one to his house. But when I went to pick it up, his mom said my mom had already called and told her not to give it to me. They'd actually coordinated against me. I even tried my doctor. So, medically speaking, what ethnic background would you say I am? That's not really a medical question, he said, but some races have certain health risks, I said. Should I be worried about sickle cell? Tay-Sachs, your parents said you might ask, he said. I'm not supposed to discuss it with you. You're my doctor. I'm the family doctor, he said. Out of desperation, I went to the public library to dig through genealogy records. I found names like ours going back to the 1800s, but nothing past my parents' generation. No birth records, no marriage licenses, nothing. That's strange, the librarian said. It's like your family just appeared out of nowhere in 1999. That's 3 years before I was born, I said. When I came back from the bathroom, the librarian's notes with my parents' names were gone. I was just here, I said. You were helping me. I don't know what you're talking about, she said. We're closing. It was 2 p.m. The library didn't close until 8:00 at home. I searched my dad's office and found my birth certificate. Where it should have listed race, someone had used actual whiteout. When I held it to the light, I could see faded letters underneath, but couldn't make them out. What are you doing? My dad said from the doorway. Looking for answers. You won't find them there. Then where? When you're 18, he said. We'll tell you then. That's 6 months away. Then wait 6 months. But I couldn't. I convinced the school nurse to take a cheek swab for a biology project and mailed it to a DNA company. I had the results sent to Jeremy's email instead of mine. 6 weeks later, Jeremy called. The results are in. I went to his house. My parents thought I was at soccer practice. They had no idea I was about to uncover their secret. Ready? Jeremy asked. Click it, I said. The screen loaded. Jeremy's face went pale. What? I asked. I looked closer and froze. It said I had 43 half-sibling matches. Below that, an ethnicity breakdown that looked like someone had blended every ancestry test together. West African 18%, Eastern European 22%, South Asian 15%, Indigenous American 12%, Middle Eastern 20%, and smaller traces of nearly everything else. My hands were shaking so hard, I had to set the laptop down before I dropped it. It suddenly made sense why no one could ever guess what I looked like. But now I had about 1,000 new questions and 0 answers. Jeremy leaned over my shoulder and gave a low whistle when he saw the list of matches. He pointed at the number 43 and said that couldn't be normal. People don't usually have that many half-siblings. I grabbed my phone and started taking screenshots before the page could disappear, or my parents somehow found a way to erase it like they did with everything else. I saved the ethnicity chart, the list of matches, even the donor number that apparently belonged to me. Jeremy just watched in silence while I screenshotted for a full 5 minutes. I spent the rest of the afternoon sitting on his bed, scrolling through the profiles of my half-siblings. Most of them were between 15 and 25, spread across 12 different states: California, Texas, Michigan, Florida, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Illinois, Washington, Colorado, and Arizona. Some had posted on a message board asking if anyone else matched with the same donor number, mine. Donor 4472. That was who I used to be before I had a name. A few people had written things like, anyone else match with 4472, or 4472 siblings group chat, link here. I clicked the link, but it required an account, so I made one using a fake email. That night at dinner, I could barely eat. My mom passed me the chicken and asked if I was feeling okay. I said I was just stressed about college applications. Dad asked if I wanted help with my essay, and I shook my head. Mom reached across the table and squeezed my hand, the way she always does when she thinks I'm upset. I had to fight the urge to pull away. All I could think about was how she'd been lying to me for 17 years. I went to bed early, pretending I had a headache, and lay awake until 2 in the morning reading message boards where my half-siblings had been connecting for years. They'd shared photos, and I could see bits of myself scattered across their faces. Someone in California had my nose. Someone in Texas had my eyes, the same shape, the same arch to the brows. Someone in Michigan had my jawline exactly. It was like looking at a puzzle of myself, broken into pieces and spread across the country in strangers' faces. Some looked more like one ethnicity than another, but we all had similar features showing up in different combinations. The next morning, before first period, Jeremy pulled me aside. He said his mom had once worked at a fertility clinic around 15 years ago, before he was born. She'd only volunteered there, but she'd mentioned it once in passing. The coincidence was too big to ignore. Do you know which clinic? I asked. He didn't remember, but said he could try to find out if I wanted. That afternoon during study hall, I logged into the DNA site and messaged one of the half-siblings through the platform. I picked someone named Raj. He seemed active in the forums and always answered other people's questions. I kept it short. Hey, I just got my results and saw we're a match. Did you know about all this before testing? I hit send before I could overthink it, then spent the rest of study hall refreshing my email, waiting for a reply that never came. My parents must have sensed something was off, because they were unusually attentive at dinner that night. Dad asked detailed questions about my classes, my day, soccer practice. Mom asked about my college essay and whether I'd finished my applications. Then Dad repeated that they'd explain everything when I turned 18 in March, just a few more months, and promised it would all make sense. I nodded and said, okay, even though I already knew more than they realized. The next week, I met with Becca Whitehead, my guidance counselor, to work on college applications. She'd been after me for weeks to finish the Common App. We were going through each section when we got to the demographic part. How do you want to identify racially? She asked. I stared at the list of boxes on her screen. White, Black, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, Pacific Islander. My throat went tight. I couldn't check any of them. Becca noticed my silence and asked if I was okay. I told her honestly that I didn't know what to mark, that my parents wouldn't tell me our background. She gave me that careful look adults get when they think something might be wrong at home. Then she asked if it was causing me distress. I almost laughed. Distress didn't begin to cover 17 years of not knowing the most basic thing about myself. I left her office and went in my locker to grab my stuff before soccer practice. Jeremy was waiting by the water fountain near the gym, like he always did on Tuesdays. I walked over. "Can we talk?" I asked. He said sure, and we moved to the empty stairwell by the science labs. I brought up Jeremy's mom working at that fertility clinic and asked if he could find out which one it was, or if she remembered anything about donors or records. His expression changed immediately. He stepped back and said his mom had been getting strange calls from my mom all week, that she was uncomfortable. My chest tightened. "What kind of calls?" I asked. He said my mom kept telling his mom not to talk to me about the clinic or help me with anything related to it. I couldn't believe they were coordinating behind my back again. I told him I just needed answers and that his mom might be the only person who could help. He said he didn't want to be in the middle of this anymore. It was getting weird between our families. I snapped that he already was in the middle by letting me use his email for the DNA test. He said that was different, and he was starting to regret it. We stared at each other, everything between us feeling tense and wrong. He walked away first. We didn't talk the next day. Or the day after. 3 days after I messaged Raj, a notification popped up on my phone during math. I waited until lunch to open it in the bathroom. Raj wrote that he learned everything 2 years earlier when he turned 18 and got access to his records. He said our donor had been used far more than normal, dozens of times, and there was a private group for half-siblings who were trying to piece everything together. He sent a link. I clicked it and made an account under a fake name. The forum opened to pages of posts going back years. A pinned thread said there were 62 confirmed half-siblings, even more than the 43 from my test. They all called the donor by his number, donor 4472. There were threads about finding him, medical issues, and introductions with photos. I opened the health concerns thread first. My hands shook as I read post after post. People describing heart problems, arrhythmia, cardiomyopathy, surgeries in their 20s. I Googled the terms and felt sick. Others mentioned autoimmune issues. No one could reach the donor because the clinic had shut down and sealed its records. When the bell rang, I was late for class. That afternoon, I called my doctor's office from the car. I asked for a heart screening, saying heart disease ran in my family. The receptionist put me on hold, then said I'd need parental consent since I was under 18. I hung up, feeling trapped by my age, by my parents, by a system that wouldn't let me take care of my own health. That night at dinner, I tried to sound casual. I said some guys on the soccer team were getting heart screenings and maybe I should too. Both my parents looked up, exchanging that silent look they always did when hiding something. Dad asked why I was suddenly worried about my heart. I said I just wanted to be careful. Mom asked if I had symptoms. I said no, just wanted peace of mind. Dad said it was unnecessary and expensive. Mom said they'd think about it, which really meant no. The next day, I skipped lunch and went to the library. In the far back by the computers, I searched how to access birth certificates and vital records. I found out that amended birth certificates were common in adoption cases. The adoptive parents' names replaced the birth parents'. The originals could be sealed by court order, and you usually needed a lawyer to access them. I searched my parents' names in the county records, but nothing came up before 1999. No birth records, no marriage license, like they hadn't existed before 3 years before I was born. I wrote down the websites and notes about sealed records and went back to the library the next day. The same librarian was there, but when I asked for help, she acted like she'd never seen me before. When I showed her my notes, her face went red and she told me the genealogy section had been reorganized, then asked me to leave. The whole thing felt wrong, like someone had told her not to help me. I talked to Cassidy, a student journalist in my English class, pretending to ask about students' rights to medical records. She immediately got interested and said she'd look into it. I could tell she knew there was more to my questions than I was admitting. 2 days later, Jeremy found me at lunch. He apologized for our fight, and I did too. I told him I felt like everyone was keeping a secret from me. He said that might not be far from the truth, and we agreed to stay friends. When I got home, my parents were waiting in the living room with my dad's laptop open. My search history was on the screen: birth certificates, sealed records, fertility clinics. I'd been careful except for that. They talked about privacy and how they wanted to wait until I turned 18. Mom looked like she'd been crying. We argued for nearly an hour before Dad said if I kept pushing, they'd take away my computer. That night, I got a video call from someone named Raj, my DNA match. He looked a lot like me, just older. "Welcome to the sibling club," he said with a small smile. Then his sister, Sita, joined the call. She was about my age, with the same features. For the first time, I wasn't sure who my real family was anymore. Sita explained that she and Raj lived in Minnesota and had found each other through the same DNA test 2 years ago. She showed me a document the group had been compiling research about the fertility clinic and donor, though most leads hit dead ends. The clinic had shut down 8 years earlier after legal trouble, and the records were sealed or destroyed. The group had a private forum where they shared timelines, family trees, and medical info. Some had managed to get bits of data through lawyers, but most parents had signed confidentiality agreements. Then Sita told me about Amaya, one of our half-siblings, who'd needed emergency heart surgery at 24. She showed me a photo of her smiling at a beach. She looked completely healthy before collapsing at work. Doctors had asked about family history, but she hadn't known any of us yet. After she recovered, she shared her medical records so others could get checked. Sita said that's why they share everything now. It could literally save someone's life. She sent me a link to a shared health document listing conditions among us: heart issues, autoimmune problems, early hearing loss. It was unsettling realizing any of it could apply to me. The next morning, I casually brought up getting a heart screening at breakfast. Dad immediately asked if someone had told me something about family health. I said no, pretending it was just because some soccer teammates were getting tested. My parents exchanged that silent look they do. Mom said she'd look into it, but told me to stop obsessing. Dad warned me not to go looking for problems. I wanted to tell them about Amaya, but didn't dare. The next day at school, 3 different people asked if it was true I didn't know what race I was. Someone had overheard me talking to Cassidy, and the rumor spread fast. By the last period, I couldn't take it. I left school and sat alone at the empty soccer fields. The next morning, Cassidy found me in the parking lot, apologizing. She told another reporter about my questions, not my name, but people figured it out. I was furious, but she offered to make it up by helping me research sealed records and minors' legal rights. I agreed. That weekend, my parents got a call from the school counselor about my identity distress. When they called me downstairs, it blew up. Dad accused me of embarrassing them. Mom cried, saying they just wanted me to have a normal life. I yelled that normal meant knowing who you are. The fight ended with Dad sending me to my room. I locked the door, pulled out my hidden phone, and messaged the sibling group everything that had happened. Within an hour, messages started pouring in from the sibling group, people sharing stories almost identical to mine. Rory from Michigan said he didn't talk to his parents for a year. Desh said his still pretended nothing had happened, even after seeing the DNA results. Mia said her mom only told the truth after she threatened to cut contact completely. Reading it all made me feel less alone and angrier. So many parents had made the same choice to hide everything. On Monday, Cassidy told me she'd found someone who might help, a legal aid attorney named Heather Marshall. We met that Wednesday at a coffee shop downtown. Heather was kind and patient as I explained everything: the DNA test, the 43 siblings, my parents' secrecy, the sealed records, the fight at home. She listened, took notes, then explained what I could actually do as a minor. Legally, not much. She said I'd need a lawyer to even request my original birth certificate, and my parents would find out immediately. It could take months or years and cost more than I could afford. She gave me a few names, but warned me it'd be expensive. I left feeling more trapped than before. The next day, I called the county records office from Jeremy's phone, pretending to be doing research for school. The supervisor, Ken Roman, said sealed records were common in adoption cases or fertility clinic settlements, and that when a court was involved, everything usually stayed locked up. After hanging up, it all made sense. The clinic must have had legal trouble. My parents probably changed their names and sealed the records as part of some agreement. Everyone, Grandma, my doctor, even Jeremy's mom, must have known that I called Grandma, hoping she'd tell me the truth. At first she was silent, then said it wasn't her story to tell. Just before hanging up, she said, "The agency promised us it would be private." My stomach dropped. Minutes later, Dad knocked on my door, furious. The records office had caller ID, and Ken had called my parents. Dad took my phone, Mom took my laptop, and they grounded me until I could respect their privacy. I was furious, but ready. I still had Jeremy's old phone hidden under my bed with all the sibling contacts saved. That night, I messaged the group. Desh replied within an hour. He lived just 30 minutes away and offered to meet. We planned to meet Saturday at a park between our towns. When I got there, he was already sitting at a picnic table. Seeing him was strange. We looked enough alike to be brothers. We shook hands, and he started telling me how he found out at 16, after pushing his parents too hard for answers. Desh told me his parents had changed their names too. He'd been fighting for information for 2 years. It gets easier, he said. But the anger never really goes away. We spent hours comparing notes before deciding to find the fertility clinic ourselves. At his house, we dug through old phone books and online archives until we found an address.